Good evening. The nurses' strike has officially begun in 11 of the 47 counties, with the nurses vowing not to resume duty until their needs are addressed. The Kenya National Union of Nurses officials have accused the counties of deliberately refusing to implement the return-to-work agreement signed on November the 2nd, 2018. The deal was signed between Kenya National Union of Nurses and the two levels of government. In that agreement, all nurses are entitled to nursing service and uniform allowances, which have not been paid from July 2018. In an attempt to forestall this strike, Labour Cabinet Secretary Authoritative constituted a conciliation committee to examine nurses' complaints and file a report within 30 days. The Kenya National Union of Nurses, through its Secretary General Seth Panyako, today said these are cat-and-mouse games and nurses will not renegotiate anything at all. So clearly, fingers are being pointed at county governments and SRC, and that is why Sophia Wanuna is speaking to Wycliffe Oparanya, who is the chair of the Council of Governors and Kakamega Governor as well. I remember Governor Oparanya on Saturday said the Council of Governors is committed to work with the Conciliation Committee appointed by Labour CS. Sophia.
Good evening, Linda. Indeed, as you mentioned, today nurses from 11 counties have downed their tools, and this is following failure to implement that return-to-work formula that was signed in November 2017. So slightly over a year later, the deal has not been met, and this is over their service and uniform allowances. Now, according to the Kenya National Union of Teachers, some counties, including Mombasa, Machakos, Vihiga, have paid their nurses. So the nurses there continue with work, delivery of medical services. However, those 11 and others who've made promises to pay, if they do not pay, industrial action will be spreading to those parts of the country as well. So let's talk a little bit more about what exactly is going on here, because we saw the Labour Minister set up this conciliatory committee to help bring all the stakeholders together and handle the issues. However, the union had said it will not cancel the industrial action. It will wait to see that an amicable solution is found. As to when, time will tell. But joining me this evening is the Kakamega Governor, but he's also the chairperson of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya. Thank you so much, sir, for making time for us. Let's begin with whether your county has paid the nurses before we get to the issues at hand.
My county has not paid. At the moment, we have not paid. Yes.
Why is that? Because this is 2017 deal. This is February 2019. That's quite a long time.
Now, this is an issue that we were taking up with the national government. When we had the first strike, the national government, because this is an issue that we inherited from the previous administration when counties came in place, there had been these claims before counties were established. So the national government accepted that they were going to help us pay the doctors. You remember when the doctors went on strike? At the same time also help us pay the nurses. At that time, we were actually helped to pay for 6 months. And thereafter, there was no other payment, but we were promised that there would be a specific provision in this year's budget through allocation from CRA. This has not happened at the moment. And it became so difficult to raise money from our own allocation in view of the fact that now we have taken over the increases that were there when the doctors were paid and the previous nurses' payments. Yeah.
So still 2017, that we have allowed it to get to a strike. We have allowed it to get to industrial action when we've seen how bad things can get. We remember 100 days of the doctor strike. So why didn't we move to avert this? Now you're the chair COG. Couldn't anything have been done to make sure these talks that were started on Friday started earlier when there was a notice of strike? Yeah,
this was unfortunate. And in fact, when I took over COG, my first thing that I did, I have talked with the secretary, the cabinet secretary in charge of treasury, and also in charge of labor. In fact, I had a meeting on Friday on this issue, and also with the PS medical services. We have discussed this issue, And what they have said, because the cabinet secretary in charge of labor, this falls under him directly, he has said that he's appointing a conciliatory conciliator look into these issues. Those are the legal process that I'm told it has to be allowed to go on. At the moment as we talk now, I'm told that is what is going on. They had a meeting on Friday. They have also had this meeting where even the nurses, they were represented by their officials, and also the COG was also represented by my CEO in that particular meeting. The Minister of Health and Labor chaired the meeting.
You know, the concern here becomes that this conciliatory team was set up Friday. This is after we know the strike commences today. So 2 days away, they have 30 days to strike, to work and give a report as the strike continues. So that the concern for ordinary Mwananchi watching tonight from Kakamega and any other part of the country is, why isn't the health care? Because it's not like a construction of a road that has stalled. It is life and death, that there are no service providers. That shouldn't that get treated with more seriousness and that more would have been done? Do you think, as leaders, you have failed ordinary Mwananchi?
This is unfortunate that we are where we are. But I'm told that the Salaries Remuneration Commission, SRC, was supposed to give authority for the counties to take up this expenditure. As you well know that this the commission is the one that is responsible in ensuring that proper remunerations are put in place. Mm-hmm. So I'm told that approval has not been coming, and also the issue has been that having implemented the last increase, mm-hmm. nurses are way up compared to other cadres of government employees. So this is an issue that I feel that we need to sit together with the national government and even with the union so that we look at it more broadly than it is now.
Isn't that going back on a promise? Because a CBA was agreed on, meaning those issues were canvassed, it was known what they were receiving, what they were going to receive.
It was not a CBA, it was just an agreement to return to work. Right. Which is different from a CBA. So that's why we are saying that a new CBA, I think, is coming in place after a period of time. Mm-hmm. So as we look into this critically, I can tell you that the counties are now very pressed in terms of wage bill. And you have had this all over. Yeah, like my Kakamega County, I will need to raise 80 million 1 month. Times 12, you know what that is. That is coming to about 700 million Kenya shillings. This is not small money. Yeah. And we are saying that this issue came from the previous administration of the national government. So why can CRA allocate money for this specific purpose and at the same time have the Salaries Remuneration Commission also agree to this particular increase?
But the counties that have been able to pay, we hear Machakos, Mombasa, Vihiga, how have they done it? Isn't it perhaps some have prioritized health and not other issues in the county?
The workload varies from one county to the county.
Correct.
For example, in my own county, the human resource is about 3,000. Such an increase, and I've told you it's 80 million. Maybe one count is 3 million shillings, which is easy to pay. But having said that, it's very important that when we have an agreement, actually we honor the agreement. And it's not a matter of just coming and putting a signature to buy time. I think it is important that this issue should have been looked into critically. I know it has come to me as a governor of Kakamega County, and I said I was going to look into it if I can make it or not, and then deal with the issue.
Do you think the HR function for the health workers needs to be returned to the national government? Remember, at the advent of devolution, that was an argument the health workers made, that they felt there were no structure in the counties, it should be left to the national government. And listening to you now, it appears as it was a problem there, and it continues to be a problem, perhaps not take it back.
My friend, I can tell you these problems have been inherited from the same place that you are saying that we should now return it. In fact, all these problems that we are enjoying, we are having now at the moment, they are national government's problem that we are trying to solve. But talk to any mwananchi at the local level. He will tell you that health care has improved. At least me, I can tell you that in Kakamega County, health care has very much improved at the moment. But the human resource systems have already been put in place. What we need is approvals from the Salaries Remuneration Commission and get more money from the Treasury. We will be able to implement this issue.
Yes.
Because, as we say now, you are talking about counties. What about national government?
So
they're also on strike, isn't it? Yeah.
One of the issues they were raising, the nurses, is that they feel like they're being played around with, ping pong, in that when they come to the counties say, well, the money is coming from the national government treasury. Then treasury will say SRC is the one deciding. Then there'll be the CRA question. Then now there's the labor. So that there's almost like no backstop. Do you see that sense of frustration?
What I feel at the moment, and I can tell you because I just took office the other day, what I think that this issue was not dealt with properly. There has been enough time to sit for us to look at this issue, but I think someone slept on his job somewhere. But however, now we have it with us.
Who slept on the job?
No, we have it now. I don't want to blame someone here, but now we have the problem now. Tomorrow, I've told the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Labor that we need to sit down together, be updated on this issue so that we can move forward. I would not want people again to suffer as we suffered last year for several months because of non-payment of what we have agreed to do.
Yeah, because health, again, a critical function. And I wonder what your views are even around this, it being a big four agenda and trying to achieve universal health care in as far as the president's mandate. What challenges do you foresee being faced? That the counties are dealing with this. You said this is inherited, but then there's what the government is seeking to achieve with UHC.
I can tell you that for us to have the universal health care coverage implemented as required, what is critical is that you must have enough resources to have more human resource in place. Because at the moment, we have a big shortage. As even we pay these other nurses, whether we are going to pay or not. But at the moment, we do not even have enough medical staff that are required to cover this universal health coverage. They are not enough. So we will need actually enough resources from the national government because this is the agenda. And that's what we have been saying at the Council of Governors. As this agenda is being implemented on our own devolved function. But we have not, been consulted appropriately, and if maybe there was consultation, there are no proper resources put place even in the current budget. I've looked at the budget policy statement. There is nothing provided as conditional grants to county governments to enable them to carry out this particular exercise. Yeah. So I feel unless this is addressed, this is going to be a very big challenge to implement universal health coverage.
Taking it back to the nurses before we wind this up, in December, of course, before you took over, the Council of Governors on this issue wrote to the counties saying that before they made any payment on these allowances the nurses are seeking, they should consult with SRC. And the argument has been the return to work formula and deal was reached wholesome, counties together. But now they're being told to engage per county on whether they can be paid, and that is in bad faith. Do you see it that way?
I think that would be in bad faith because even the one meeting that I had with the Minister of Labor, I was there representing the counties as a whole because it becomes difficult to deal with each county individually because of the 47 counties. Council of Governors is there to act on behalf of the council. But since this is a sensitive issue, which involves expenditure, we don't know the capacities of some of these counties. It was critical that actually counties agree themselves that as a Council of Governors, please deal with this issue on our behalf. And I feel that this request from the county government, we have got it. Now, we are now, as I stand here, what I say, I'm saying on behalf of all the counties in this country. But you see, decision-making is based, especially on expenditure, is based on individual counties. And that's why you are saying some counties have paid, some have not paid, because circumstances also vary from one county to the other. But what we agreed, that all counties should not pay until we agree what we are doing to what we are going to do, so that when we do it uniformly, and then in future we deal with this thing once and for all.
So finally and briefly, your assurance to ordinary Kenyans watching you out there who now have been told stay away, there are no nurses in several of these counties, more may go on strike, and you're now chair, COG. What is it you tell them, and the nurses as well tonight?
I can tell them that tomorrow we are going to have a meeting, and by the end of the day, we will have come up with a solution on this particular issue.
Okay.
Yes.
Many thanks. Thank you so much for making the time for us here on The Big Story. That is Kakamega Governor, but most importantly, the chairperson of the Council of Governors. So speaking tonight for all the 47 counties and saying that this matter, as from tomorrow when they do sit down, they'll seek to bring it to a conclusion and perhaps see the nurses return to work. Linda.
Sophia, I'm just listening in to you with the Kakamega Governor, and of course, chair of COG, and he says they're going to have a meeting tomorrow. And I listened into Seth Panyako, that is the Secretary General, Kenya Union of Nurses. And he was very categorical today. He said, we are not renegotiating anything. And the only way out of this is for counties to pay. So let's see how this plays out. A big thank you to Wycliffe Oparanya, who's the chair COG and Kakamega Governor as well. I'd like now to speak to Maurice Opetu, who's the Deputy Secretary General, Kenya National Union of Nurses as well. He's joining us in the studio. A little later on, I'll be speaking to Alfred Mutua. Alfred Mutua is the governor in the county of Machakos. The reason I'll be speaking to him is because his county is among the three, if I'm not wrong, who have been able to pay nurses. So I want to pick his mind on how exactly they got here, despite the fact that Oparanya says, I mean, they had an agreement that no county should pay until they all agree on how to clear this. So let's see if we can speak to him a little bit later in this show. But Mr. Opetu, just listening into Oparanya, and he's made some statements that would worry any Kenyan. One, he says that the counties have been waiting for authority from SRC. They've not gotten that approval. And he says nurses, in terms of pay, nurses are way up compared to other cadres of government employees. And he said the wage bill is a big issue for counties, maybe something you may want to consider or reconsider. What are your thoughts on what Governor Oparanya has had to say?
Okay, thank you. I want to say that it is very unfortunate for Governor Oparanya, who is the chair of COG, first to claim that the problem that is there is because of the inherited wage bill or problems that they inherited from the national government. That is not the issue, because we remember when the governors were fighting to have health service, sector given to them as governors to control as county governments, they considered the burdens that they were inheriting. They considered what responsibilities they were taking. So it is now their time to own up and take the full responsibility of what they inherited. I want to also say that as Kenyans, we made a blunder by so allowing a very important sector like health sector to go into the hands of the governors, some of whom are purely politicians, who may not be having health services or health to Kenyans as a priority. I want to also say that the governors of Kenya, the county governors, should not now come and hide behind the conciliation that is being moved by the Labour Minister. First, the Labour Minister has been in Kenya. He has been with us here since we started pushing for the implementation of our return to work formula, which was legally agreed upon and signed by the COG chair, that is Governor Nanok, the PS for Health, the CS for Health, the chair of all county public service boards of Kenya, Mr. Tanui, signed the return to work agreement with the nurses. And therefore, these guys have always been in Kenya, and they knew there was to be responsibility being taken. The Labour Minister must have slept on job, and he must own up to making a mistake and to bringing Kenyans to suffer today. Because all the letters we were writing, all the strike notices that we issued were copied to him. I also know of letters that were written by the COG Secretariat CEO, Madam Mugeni, were copied to him. And therefore, he cannot come just one morning when the strike is supposed to start in the next 24 hours and form a conciliation committee that is to give him a report after 30 days. Where was he since November last year? Where was he since November 2017? He, as the Labour Minister, would have followed up to look into it that the disputes that were there in between the nurses, the national government, and the county governments are resolved.
All right,
so that Kenyans would continue enjoying their health services.
So in other words, sir, so in other words, just listening to you, what you're basically saying is that A, you don't think this conciliatory committee is in good faith and is not something the nurses want to engage in, is it?
That is it. The conciliation is not in good faith because the Minister for Labour has been there. He had all the time when we issued the strike notice in November 2018. He would have come in very fast and constitute the conciliation committee, which could have given him a report after 30 days since we served the strike notice. But coming with a conciliation committee just the day when the strike is on is in good faith and is only trying to cover what he has failed to do.
All right.
And this should be, he should be held responsible by Kenyans and the president of this nation who appointed him to serve the Kenyans in that
You see,
position.
the reason why this is a concern for Kenyans out there is because millions of Kenyans out there go to public hospitals. So there's a conciliation committee that was created, and apparently you, the nurses, are supposed to take part in it, and you seem to be backing away from it. So what's the way forward?
What the CS for Labour could have done was to appoint Labour officers in the counties. We have Labour officers in all county governments. They could have gone there to sit down with the unions and the particular county governments and conciliate there, because we have a letter from the COG that was dated 20th of November 2018 that directed us and instructed us to issue strike notices to the individual county governments. And therefore, it is like the national government, the unit that coordinates the Council of Governors or the county governments, that is the COG, had absolved themselves from taking responsibility on resolving this stalemate. And therefore, the CS for Labour could have appointed conciliators at the county government level so that each county government, and I want to tell you, each governor, each county government wrote letters to SRC early January indicated that money was allocated and they factored the monies to their budgets for the payment of the nurses' return to work formula items. That is the nursing service allowance and the uniform allowance. It is very funny and it is unfortunate to hear from Governor Oparanya claiming that they were not given money. Meanwhile, even his county confirmed that money was allocated and was factored into their budget and they were ready to pay. So the issue coming up now that they have not been given money by the National Treasury is a lie. They are lying to Kenyans.
I'll try and find out if whether he's lying or not, because we are taking a break, but when we come back, I'll be speaking to Machakos Governor, Dr. Alfred Mutua, and just speak his mind on how his county got to do this. Did they get money from the National Treasury? How expensive was it? So let's take that break now. We'll be back in a few minutes.